James, the CEO of a popular retail chain, had always been proud of his company. He worked hard to build it from the ground up. But lately, he had been hearing troubling things. Rumors about poor customer service, complaints about unhelpful employees, and whispers about a toxic atmosphere in his stores. As a leader, James couldn't ignore these reports. He knew that the success of his business depended not only on the products they sold, but also on the experience they provided to customers. One afternoon, as he sat in his office, James made a bold decision. Instead of relying on reports or hearing second-hand stories, he would go straight to the source. He would visit one of his stores, disguised as an ordinary customer. No one would recognize him, and he could see for himself what was happening behind the scenes. He stood up, walked over to the closet, and grabbed a pair of jeans, a hoodie, and a baseball cap. He knew his usual business attire would give him away in an instant. He wanted to be as ordinary as possible, just another shopper browsing through the store. With a deep breath, he left his office and drove to the nearest store. His heart was pounding as he thought about what he might find. When he arrived, he parked in the back lot and took a moment to look around. The store seemed busy. There were plenty of cars in the parking lot, and the sounds of laughter and chatter came from inside. James felt a knot in his stomach. He hoped he would be able to see past the everyday hustle and uncover what was truly going on. As he entered, he adjusted his cap to shield his face. The employees were focused on their tasks, some helping customers, others stocking shelves. No one seemed to notice the newcomer. James stood quietly at the back of the store, watching the employees work. His eyes scanned the store, noting the displays, the customer traffic, and the overall atmosphere. At first, everything seemed normal, but as time went on, he began to feel uneasy. James had been in enough stores to know when something was off. The employees looked tired, and some of them were chatting more with each other than with customers. He noticed one worker laughing with a coworker while a customer stood, waiting, with a confused expression on their face. James moved closer to the clothing section, where two employees were standing and chatting. He overheard their conversation. "I don't know why they bother," one of the employees said, shaking their head. "They're always complaining about us, but what do they expect? No one cares." The other employee nodded. "It's always been like this. No one ever does anything about it." James's heart sank. This wasn't just a few complaints. This was a pattern. It seemed like the employees weren't invested in their work, and worse, they were bitter about it. James wondered how long this had been going on. If this was the culture in his store, then it wasn't just an issue of poor customer service. It was a deeper, more dangerous problem. He decided to take a walk around the store to see more. He passed the electronics section and spotted a worker who was supposed to be helping a customer. Instead, the worker was scrolling through their phone. The customer was standing there, waiting for assistance, and the employee didn't even notice. The customer sighed, clearly frustrated, and walked away. James followed them, still trying to stay out of sight. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Was this really the atmosphere in his store? How could a place that he worked so hard to build have sunk this low? The more he observed, the more he began to feel a pit in his stomach. The store was dirty. There were boxes in the aisles, empty shelves in some sections, and a lack of organization. Employees seemed to be more interested in chatting with each other than engaging with customers. The few times James saw someone helping a customer, it was half-hearted at best. He leaned against a wall, trying to process what he was witnessing. He had always prided himself on the company's reputation, but now he was seeing it through the eyes of a customer, and it wasn't a pretty sight. He thought about all the investments, all the sacrifices he had made to grow this business. It was supposed to be a place where customers felt welcome, where employees were proud of their work. But from what he was seeing now, it was clear that something was broken. As James continued to watch, he saw one more thing that confirmed his growing suspicion. A manager walked by, sternly talking to a young employee who had just made a small mistake. The manager didn't offer any advice or help. Instead, they snapped at the employee, making them feel small in front of everyone. James couldn't believe This was the leadership in his store. The atmosphere was toxic. Employees were scared, disengaged, and frustrated. There was no energy, no excitement, and certainly no customer-first attitude. It was like a different world from the company James had worked so hard to create. As the hours passed, James was filled with a sense of disbelief. This wasn't just poor management. It was a culture problem. A culture that had been allowed to grow and fester without anyone taking responsibility. His phone buzzed, breaking his concentration. It was a message from his assistant, reminding him about an important meeting in an hour. But James couldn't leave yet. He needed to know more. He needed to confront the issue head-on. With a sigh, he pulled out his phone and dialed the number of his lawyer. He needed advice, and he needed it fast. "It's time to take action," James said quietly as the phone rang. The answers were coming, but James wasn't sure if he was ready to face them. The following day, James can't shake the feeling of unease from his visit to the store. Everything he witnessed continues to weigh on him. The toxic culture, the disengaged employees, and the poor customer service. His flagship store was falling apart, and he had no idea how deep the problem really went. Determined to get to the bottom of it, he begins to put together a plan. Setup. James returns to his office early in the morning. He's shaken, but he knows he needs to act quickly. He calls in his top managers, the ones he trusts most, and arranges a meeting. As they enter the conference room, James doesn't waste any time. He's tired of beating around the bush. "I went to the store yesterday," James says, his voice firm and serious. His managers freeze, a few of them exchanging nervous glances, and I saw things I never imagined possible. The store is a mess. The employees have no motivation, no respect for the brand, and the customers are being treated terribly. "How long has this been going on?" The room falls silent. The managers look down at their notes, some shuffling their feet. James can see their discomfort. He already knows they've been aware of the issues, but no one wanted to address them. Finally, one of the senior managers, Peter, clears his throat. "James, we've been trying to make improvements, but..." He hesitates. "There are issues we can't control. We've been understaffed, and some of the new hires just don't fit in with the culture. It's been tough." James feels his frustration rising. He takes a deep breath. "I get it, Peter, but this is unacceptable. We can't just blame it on being understaffed. This is about leadership. If there's a problem at the ground level, it's a problem with the way we're leading. We need to address the culture first, before we lose everything." His words hang in the air. Peter nods, but James can tell he doesn't fully agree. The tension in the room is thick, and James knows that this isn't going to be an easy conversation. James steps into the second store, fully prepared to uncover the truth. As he walks in, he's immediately struck by the same lack of energy he felt at the flagship store. The employees are standing around, chatting idly, while customers wander the aisles largely ignored. Something is clearly wrong. Setup. He walks toward the customer service desk, trying his best to stay calm. The employees barely glance up as he approaches, and when they do, their expressions are indifferent. He spots an older woman who looks lost and steps up to help her, only to watch one of the employees turn her back on the woman with a shrug. James's heart sinks. He's seen this same behavior before. This isn't a one-off. This is happening everywhere. As James watches from a distance, the store manager finally walks in. The manager, a tall man in his late 40s named Mark, is on his phone, not paying attention to the chaos around him. James decides it's time to confront him. "Mark, is this how you run your store?" James asks, his voice calm but firm. Mark looks up, startled. "Oh, James. Didn't expect you here." "You didn't expect me here?" James repeats, his patience wearing thin. "Why would you not expect me? I own this company, and I don't expect this kind of behavior from my employees." Mark seems taken aback, clearly uncomfortable. "I mean the staff. They're just not motivated lately. They're going through a tough time." "That's not an excuse," James responds sharply. "Your job is to lead them, to motivate them, and yet you're standing here, pretending like everything's fine while the customers get ignored." Mark stumbles. over his words. I'm trying, James, but they don't listen to me. James shakes his head, disbelief creeping in. That's the problem. You're not leading them, Mark. You're letting them lead you. James arrives at the next location, his mind racing with the thought of what he might uncover next. This time, he's prepared for the worst. He's been hearing rumors about the company's internal culture for months, but he never imagined it would be this bad. This is the moment he's been dreading, the one where he must face the reality of what's been happening behind closed doors. Setup. Inside the store, the environment feels even more chaotic than the previous locations. The aisles are messy, the shelves are poorly stocked, and the employees seem even more disengaged. James watches as one employee answers a customer's question with a sarcastic tone. Another casually laughs about a previous shift, making fun of the customers they served. He approaches one of the staff members, a young man named Aaron, and strikes up a conversation. "Hey, how's it going today?" James asks, trying to appear casual, even though he's already sensing the tension in the air. Aaron shrugs, not meeting James's eyes. "Same as usual, I guess. Just here to do my job, you know?" James nods, but inside he's fuming. "I know you're just doing your job, Aaron, but is this really the standard we've set here? Is this the kind of experience we want to offer to our customers?" Aaron shifts uncomfortably, glancing around nervously. "It's not just me, man. It's everyone. We don't get the support we need. And honestly, the company hasn't been the same for a while now. People just come in and clock out. There's no motivation, no real care." James feels a pang in his chest. He knew things were bad, but hearing it from one of his employees, someone who should be a part of the solution, makes it hit harder. He thanks Aaron for his honesty and moves on to the next employee. The tension in the room is thick. James, standing before his employees, feels the weight of the moment. He's always prided himself on building a company based on respect, integrity, and hard work. But what he's just witnessed shakes him to his core. The employees' apathy, the sarcasm, and the lack of care, it all points to one thing: a toxic culture that's been festering for far too long. He takes a deep breath, looking around at the room full of his staff. They're all waiting for him to say something, to give them answers. He's already made up his mind. Change is coming, whether they like it or not. Setup. "I didn't come here to point fingers," James begins, his voice calm but firm. "I came here because I want us to fix this. What I saw today, it's not who we are, and it's certainly not who we should be. We are a team, and it's time we act like one." The employees exchange glances. Some look skeptical, others appear relieved, but most are silent. James continues, his resolve growing stronger. "I want to give each of you an opportunity to make things right. But that means taking ownership. If we're going to turn this ship around, we all have to be part of the solution. I'm going to make some changes, starting with leadership. We're going to bring in new managers who understand what it means to lead with respect, and we're going to invest in training for everyone. This is a company where you should feel valued, not ignored. But that starts with you." As James speaks, he can see the employees starting to open up. The walls they'd built around themselves, the apathy they'd been holding on to, it begins to crack. Some of them nod. Others seem to be deep in thought. But no one interrupts. The room is finally listening. The days after James's meeting with the employees are tense. He's made promises. He's implemented new policies and brought in new leadership. But not everyone is on board. Some employees are eager to change, but others, the ones who had been part of the toxic culture, seem resistant. James knows the road ahead will be difficult. The question remains, will this be a new beginning for the company, or will his promises fall apart? Setup. James walks into the office early one morning, the weight of the world on his shoulders. His mind races with doubts. He'd told his employees that he'd hold himself accountable, that he would lead by example. But now, as he watches the first few employees trickle in, he wonders if his efforts will be enough. Lisa, the young employee who had spoken up at the last meeting, approaches him. "Mr. James, I just wanted to thank you. she says quietly. I know it's been tough, but the changes are making a difference. People are talking. They're starting to care again. James smiles, but the smile doesn't reach his eyes. I'm glad to hear that, Lisa, but it's going to take more than a few good conversations. It's going to take action, and we're not there yet. As the day goes on, James can feel the tension in the air. Some employees seem reinvigorated, motivated by the new direction, but others, they seem skeptical. A few of the old managers still grumble about the changes, and James catches wind of whispers about his new leadership style. But he refuses to let it get to him. Not now.